Kisu Wisdom, Kisu Kyukit, Kisu Core Quiet, Kapinishkes. Welcome back to an extra special Warrior Wednesdays. This year, it's honestly extra special because here in the country of Canada, it is Indigenous Day. That is amazing that this, one of the last Warrior Wednesdays of this season, ends on a very powerful day. It is also the first day of the summer. And this podcast, I want to talk about gratitude again, but in a different concept, a different form. I'm a pretty positive person, but just like yourself who's tuning into this podcast, I'm human. And there are honestly toxic gratitude. There is toxic gratitude. There is toxic gratitude, There are types of traits like that. And, I was listening to this episode recently, and it does talk about a few types of toxic gratitude, these forms of that style. And it was already resonating with me because I knew what I was talking about this week. Because I went and saw on Father's Day a movie called Bones of Crows. And when it releases in other countries, I know it's only here in Canada right now because it was actually filmed in Canada, and a lot of the actors are from Canada. It goes into depth. It's a true story, and it goes into depth about residential schools. So it's like another version of Indian Horse, but it shows you a totally different life on what has happened on another person that was a slave, a prisoner to these institutes they called residential schools. And it hit a lot of triggers for me because a lot of I didn't have my real father in my life at all. He would come in here and there, but he wasn't a father figure. He wasn't a role member, as a father should be. He wasn't there for me when I needed him. He didn't show me how to be a man. He didn't show me how to shave. He didn't show me a lot of things that a father should do. And as I watched this movie, and these triggers were being hit, and it being Father's Day, and that being even more of a trigger for me, I actually allowed myself to cry at the end of the movie, and I sat there and I just let tears roll down my face. And one toxic trait a person could actually do in that moment is try to find gratitude and say, hey, at least this or that, hey, at least you're here, hey, at least you're alive. At least you got to watch this movie, not actually live it personally and experience it personally. I could turn to gratitude like that, but it is a form of toxic gratitude, and it is a form of toxicity because it doesn't allow yourself to feel your feelings. It doesn't allow yourself to heal. Because if I just use gratitude in that moment, I wouldn't allow myself to cry. I wouldn't allow myself to feel that emotion. I wouldn't allow myself to just take a look at how these so-called residential schools really affected my life. And not only my life, but the two people that I was with, that I went and saw it with. And we were the only Indigenous people in that theater. And at the very end of it, it was the same thing when I went to Indian Horse. No one wanted to get up. People just sat there reflecting on it. And it honestly took a lot out of me that day. And I knew that it would hit triggers for me. And even thinking about it still, it's still hitting triggers for me. And it still makes me sad, and it still makes me upset. And I'm not going to use gratitude to try and push my pains and my feelings, because I did that for many years, and I did that with alcohol. Some people will do that with drugs. Some people will do that with food. Some people will do that with the gym. Some people will do that with video games. They'll run from their feelings. They'll try to numb and forget that pain, the crying, the hurt. When you have to feel it, you have to embrace it. You have to cry. You have to allow yourself to feel those things, because if these feelings weren't needed in life, Creator wouldn't have given us these feelings. Everything that we have was given to us for a reason. And crying allows you to heal. Crying allows you to actually just take a look. And for men, it is especially extra hard to allow yourself to actually cry, because of that old boy mentality that you're a wimp. You're a little B word. If you cry, you're not strong. You're not a warrior. But that is the exact opposite. If you can allow yourself to cry, and if you're a man, you are strong, because you are in touch with your feelings. You are in touch with who you are. You understand yourself. And that is one of the most manliest things I think a man can do, is express their true feelings. And gratitude does serve its purpose. As you know, I write things that I'm grateful for every morning. I always try to find things to be grateful for. But I realize that, there's some points in your life where gratitude will actually do the opposite of what you're trying to do. It'll actually hurt you. It won't heal you, because you can't heal yourself from that moment and that pain. So if you're the type of person that runs from sadness, from crying, from hurt, from pain, don't. Sit in it. Feel it. Embrace it. Allow it to flow through you. That is life flowing through you. That pain, that sorrow, you wouldn't have it if it didn't have a purpose in your life. And this movie also made me realize that the work that I'm doing on myself is preparing me for my future. So my kids, when I have kids, they'll never ever have to grow through the situations that I had to. You know, I'm breaking cycles as I go along. And then I know my mom is proud of me. I know my brothers are proud of me. My sisters, you know, my dad, up in the happy hunting grounds, as we call it. In where I'm from, the Tunaka ways, we call it the happy hunting grounds. You know, I know my father is proud of me on the man I'm becoming, the man that, you know, he wished that he could help me become. But his own traumas through what happened to these schools couldn't allow him to. You know, that's where that disconnect happened in these schools, is that parents didn't know how to be parents anymore. You know, children grew up in these places with no love. And when you grow up with something we grow up with no love, when you get out, you don't know how to show it. And then myself, I even see it because sometimes when I'm hugging someone, my automatic intuition is just to hug them for a couple seconds and let go and kind of push them away. When as some people, as human beings, you know, we shouldn't do that. And especially, you know, me, you know, it's not healthy to hug someone real quickly and push them away. And that's that trauma that's within me that doesn't want me to feel those feelings, feel that pain, feel those emotions when I was a kid. Because I remember some of my first memories, as I talked about it before, were not good memories. Some of my first memories were me crying and crying and crying and crying and crying for just hours on end, and me feeling scared and alone. And I'm assuming that that's how these children who are taken away from their families felt, because I almost felt like I was taken away from my family because I was adopted out of the hospital right away as soon as I was allowed to leave. And when I was 2, I had already grown a bond with my adopted mother. You know, I looked at her as my mom. I didn't know who my real mom was. I didn't know she was my mom. And I had already had that bond with my adopted mom. So I didn't know who my mom was at the time. And 2 days right before my second birthday, my older brother, was buried because he had drowned and passed away. And things that happened between my mom, my birth mom, and my birth dad. And my birth dad, I guess, from stories I was told my mom that he didn't want me being raised by white people, and that she needed to take him back, or take me back, you know, take him back, meaning me. And my mom was already in a devastated state because she had lost one of her boys already. So even though my adopted mom legally had documentation saying that she was the guardian and the care for me, my mom took me back, my birth mom. And that's one of my first memories, is me sitting at the front window of my birth mom's house, and I felt scared and I felt alone, and I remember just standing there crying and looking at the driveway, just crying and crying and crying, and I didn't know why I was crying. And that's because I felt scared and alone, and I felt abandoned by my adopted mom. And as I was watching that movie with these little kids, now where they were taken away and they were scared and they felt alone, I know how that actually feels. And it's not a good feeling as a kid to feel those things right away. You know, as a kid, you should feel protected. You should feel safe. You should feel loved. You should feel all these feelings. But how residential schools had affected my mom's side of my family and my dad's side of my family, that's all they knew was pain, which was passed on to me, which it ends with me, because my kids will never ever feel that pain that I had to feel. So this whole episode is dedicated to not running away from your feelings. If you're a settler to North America, or if you're non-Indigenous, please try and watch this film if you can. Bones of Crows. It's a really, really well done movie. And it gives you a better insight on why Indigenous people of North America are the way they are. It allows you to take a step back and show some compassion. And it allows you to look at us through a different lens. And you know, even myself doing the work, I look at our people with hurt and trauma and all this stuff, and it allows me not to take things that people say to me in the community personally, because I know that they come from a long line of trauma themselves. And having that kind and candor and understanding that allows you not to lash out of your emotions. So for Indigenous Day in Canada, I hope you're wearing orange, even if you're not in Canada. Be an ally. There are various movies you can watch. You can watch Indian Horse. You can watch No Foul Play. You can watch a funnier movie. It's called Dance Me Outside, but there are some topics in there. There's a movie called Trail of Tears, Indian Horse. There's this recent movie that came out, Bones of Crows. There's another movie called it recently just came out. It's filmed in Kitimat, Monkey Beach. That's another good movie. There's Wind River. I don't like to recommend Wind River because of the woman who plays in that movie. She's actually Asian. She's not Indigenous. She changed her name legally to look Native American, to get more Native American roles. But there is really good topics in that movie. It gives you better insight on what we have gone through. So, feel your feelings. Don't run from them. Don't numb them. Don't have toxic gratitude. And another form of toxic gratitude I learned was shaming people with gratitude. You know, when someone does something, you say, well, just be thankful that you have a roof over your head. Just be grateful that you have a job. Just be grateful for this. Or just, if someone says something, you're invalidating their feelings. And you're putting that toxic gratitude on them. And I've been there myself, trust me, so I know. And now that I step back and I look, I'm like, wow, that is actually kind of toxic. And I won't ever do that to someone ever again, because that's invalidating their feelings. It's like saying, oh, your feelings are wrong. And that's one thing in the world we can't tell anyone else, is that what they're feeling is wrong. Because what they're feeling is what they're feeling for them. And we can't experience that. So we have to allow them to experience it and understand it and acknowledge it without being toxic. So I am truly grateful that you tuned into this episode. And I hope you take the time to educate yourself some more and learn. Because when you actually learn the true history, when people say things that are hateful, that people that aren't educated on the subject, you can actually say, hey, well, no, that's actually not how it is. A lot of people think that we get tax-free money, we get all this money, we get all these free things, when in reality we don't. I pay taxes just like everyone else. I don't get free money. I don't get all these free things, and a lot of Indigenous people don't either. So even just acknowledging that and telling people that, hey, that's actually not the truth, that's not how it is, that creates awareness. And that's how we break this systematic colonial system that has been built. So, Sukuni for tuning in. Dagas, share this with someone. Please share this episode with someone. Share it. It would mean the world to me if you could share this and get this knowledge and this word out to people. I'll tune in next week for my last podcast of this season. Sukuni, Dagas, and remember, everything always happens for the right reasons. Take care. Happy Indigenous Day. Happy summer solstice. See you next Wednesday on my Wealthy Warrior.